May I now invite on stage Kaustubh Nande for track summation.
All right, so we've had an exciting morning, lots of thoughts, and my job in the next 5 minutes is to give you a summary version of what some of the highlights of the entire first session were. So let me kind of put in some of my thoughts. I think we began with a very fantastic presentation from Jody, and she talked about 4 or 5 very interesting concepts on adaptive content, pattern recognition, focus on the experience. Then we switched gears to hyper-personalization, a word that has come up more than twice or thrice already. And then a very strong piece of advice: don't wait for the perfect data, just get started with. And I think that was so we opened on a very, very strong note. I think the panel on putting personal into personalization really drove 2 specific themes. One was sort of the balance between how and where businesses need to be too personal versus not being too personal, and the word creepy also came, I heard that word being discussed. And then the second challenge we discussed was about doing much of this personalization at scale. So I think in small bits and pieces, this is all successful, and there are smaller stories, but we need bigger successes in marketing. Moving on, we sort of heard a very, very good example and saw some of the results from the Jet Privilege case study. And I saw the number 95%, which was, I think, it's a sweet number to see and hear in a presentation. Clearly, I think Manish and the team here have done an extraordinary job of implementing some of the things we talked about and discussed, and the challenge of scale. I think the Jet Privilege is, looking back, as Ramesh pointed out, one of the examples where, an Indian example, where we have seen this implemented at scale. And you saw some of the results in the morning.
Thank you so much, my friend.
Talking about the second panel on Bharat and the data for Bharat, I thought there were a couple of challenges that the country as a whole is struggling with, and due to lots of historical challenges that are now we are trying to address gradually. I think the big problem with India has been the availability of structured data to begin with, and I think humble beginnings a decade plus ago by a lot of research agencies have gradually we are getting there, but it's nowhere to be. I don't think it's systematic enough for us to play on it too much. The other thing Manjunath pointed out was about what do we know versus what do we don't know about the customers, about the profile, and about the data that we actually end up gathering. And I think that is going to be the challenge where AI will fit into it sweetly, and at least give us hints of what we know, what we don't know, and what potentially we couldn't have known but we then know, and so on and so forth. So I think insights-led action is something as a key takeaway from that session as marketeers we should look for. And then, of course, you heard Ruth here talking about the crossplay between B2B, B2C, along with the Makino example. And I thought it really is now, even looking back over the last couple of years from my own personal journey, the lines between what I'm learning from B2C examples and implementing in B2B versus and vice versa is sort of blurring. And I think it's an interesting next couple of years to see where we are headed with that specific trend. And in the end, I want to state something what Balaji mentioned, those 3 beautiful, sweet words. That customers, as people, we want to feel welcomed, remembered, and valued. And I think the irony of that statement is, very AI-led, personalized, all of those conversations about machines and data. Ultimately, it's the emotional element of what we do with that data, how we make our customers feel welcomed, remembered, and valued, is what I found as a beautiful thought to close on. So thank you, everyone who attended, listened to the first session. We'll get into a break, and thank you very much again. Thanks a lot.